Okay, so I already did the legend tier list, right? Now, as you can see, only doing 3 tiers. I'm having a hard time doing this just because, like, I really don't think the weapons are that spaced apart. But let's get into it either way. We're going to go down the list, and to start off, I am going to put Axe. Honestly, it's really hard. I think I'm going to, for now, I'll put Axe in A+. I think the things that are better in the current meta, right, like Gauntlets, Sword, they can do well into Axe, but I think Axe has some really strong moves overall. I think D-Light, N-Light, and Sair, I think those are like the ones that people think are really good. But also, I will say Sidelight Nair being like the only, I guess, really combo, a reliable combo that the weapon has is both good and bad. That means, okay, I just need to space out Sidelight, but also that means, okay, I'm going to hit Sidelight Nair, have 30 damage, and then I can basically do whatever I want after. And you have a lot of time to think, too. So there's a lot of options you can do off of it. I think blasters are a weapon that blaster mains will say it is very bad, but then you have people who don't play blasters and are like, oh my gosh, this weapon's like absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to say it's in middle of the road. Blasters, right, they can struggle, I guess, sometimes when you're playing against, again, the stuff that is considered to be like very, very meta at the very top right now. But also blasters, I think they really thrive with building damage. Pretty much all the moves do a lot of damage. You get one read and there's a really easy flow chart you can do, right? You can do, you can do your D-Light, Sidelight, Nair. You can do Nair juggles in general just really easily. Side Air and Side Light are both extremely good just because for weapon against like Katars, blasters can actually do pretty good. I know that might seem a little off because blasters have a lot of dead zones, so you would think Katars being up close would hurt it. But I think because like specifically Sidelight, that really helps blasters a lot because you can keep your distance and you can rack up a lot of damage quick. Bow did get nerfed a bit, but I think it's going to take a little more time to tell where it really lies. So for now, before, if it didn't get hit in the previous patch, I would say it's still S tier, but now I'm going to bump it down to A+. I think losing N-Light Nair is kind of a big deal, right? That's just free damage you're not going to get anymore. Also, Nair in general being nerfed is a pretty big deal considering that's what a lot of bow players would like to fall back on just because the move was still insane and it still is like really, really good. It's just not as good as it was before. Then also Dare. This is the one I haven't been able to tell that much, maybe because I never really used it a lot. But Dare also had a couple frames of recovery, I believe, added to it. So it had a couple nerfs here and there. Nothing too crazy. It's still a super solid weapon. Maybe this is a surprise, but I'm actually going to put Cannon in A. There's a lot of good moves on Cannon. I think that like Dare, Nair, and N-Light in particular are really, really good. The strings are also very nice, getting a lot of damage very, very quickly, right? And also pushes your opponent super far away. But there are weapons that do this better. And also, I think when it comes to priority, Cannon can lose out in a lot of situations. With that being said, though, I do think Cannon still is very, very good. That's why A is like the floor for this. It's not like it's some F tier weapon unplayable. Absolute freebie. Gauntlets are going in S tier. They have the 3-piece. They can do basically whatever you want. Their offstage is possibly the best in the game, if not. And yeah, I mean, they just have it all, really. They're great in 1s and 2s, fast moves, a lot of options. Like, what else do you really, really want? So we've actually seen this weapon just win a tournament in Parsec. And honestly, I think Greatsword is, it's going to sit in A+. Now, I'm not ordering these. I always feel that to be a little tedious and it doesn't really mean much. So I'm going to just plop Greatsword here in A+. And yeah, it's got the string still, man. Like, if you can just get the reads and if you can deal with the extra, like, lag time on the openers and just all the moves in general if you miss, then it's still really, really good. I think a big thing that helps it, though, is that a lot of people don't know how to play against it. But if you want to see what good Greatsword gameplay looks like, then just wait for the Parsec set to come out that Sandstorm did versus Snowy. He played Mako, and honestly, I think that was a really good showcase of like what someone who doesn't know how to play against Greatsword playing against like someone who knows how to play the weapon looks like, because Snowy just had no idea. There's a lot of 50-50s that still exist for the weapon, and I'm curious to see if anyone else is going to end up picking it up. There's been a lot of weird talk with Hammer being S tier weapon or like one of the best weapons in the game. I really don't think it is. It's gotten a lot of like smaller nerfs over time. And also when you just look at the type of weapon that's good, right? It's weapons that are giving you a lot of damage off dodges. Hammer doesn't really do that. Now, it's a great closer. It complements these weapons very well, but I don't think it's, you know, the best weapon in the game at all. I think there's a lot of weapons that are better. Also, you can't say it is like slower, I guess. I mean, sometimes you don't really feel that too much, but the most recent nerf was to Endlight. They added a little more lag to it, which you can tell a little bit. I think Hammer mains in particular are going to be able to tell. But either way, if you're playing Hammer, you're usually going to want to pair it with just about anything in S tier. And luckily for you, pretty much aside from, well, one of them, we'll get to it. Aside from one of the weapons that are going to be in S tier, Hammer is with the weapon. I don't understand why Katar's got the sidelight buff back where you can dash sidelight and travel so far. I don't think it's nearly as bad as it was before, but with the sidelight being buffed and then also Sarah still existing, they did nerf Dare, and I guess they did hit sidelight a little bit, but you can kind of neglect them a lot. Like, the moves are overall still really, really good. It's hard to find one thing in particular. I know a lot of Katar players, or I've heard some complaints about Katars. You can hit, like, you can catch someone's dodge when you hit Endlight, but then the recovery, depending on the spacing, you won't be able to get the follow-up after. So I guess kills sometimes, but even then, they're just such an easy weapon. I mean, if you're looking at top level Katar play, at least in my region, North America, what you're going to see is you're going to see people back up. You're going to see them do sidelight, endlight, and then go for Nair, because Nair, it'll cover a couple options, and then you can also work with that. But at worst, you're probably going to get 3 hits off, and then you just reset, kind of do the same thing. Honestly, I think this might be the only weapon I actually give a ranking. I'm going to say Orb is at like the top of A+. Just because it got a couple nerfs. I can't remember all of them, but it had to do with some recovery frames and stun, I believe, on variations of Dare, and then also I believe I think it was Nair or Sidelight, something. It got a couple of nerfs though, and then everyone just stopped playing it. They just opted to play more Gauntlets and Katars instead. And I think a big reason why we're not seeing Orb is because there's not an Orb Katars. There is Orb Gauntlets, but the only person who is playing Petra in North America, Boomy, is now playing Onyx instead. So, yeah, I don't know why people really haven't been playing Orb at all. I mean, to be fair, Thor still exists, but I think you're going to be seeing Thor a lot more in 2s than in 1s. So Parsec was only a 1s tournament, and therefore we didn't really get to see if people are going to pull this character out in 2s or pull out this weapon at all. So I'm curious to see. I think it's still, like I said, super good. It's just really, really hard to tell. I'm going to put Lance in A, but I think Lance right now is pretty solid. Obviously, Lance gets a really bad rap just because no one really plays it, and I think the playstyles that do play it, or the people who do play it, a lot of the times, they're not super flashy. They're just very fundamental with the weapon. So I think a lot of people just don't really care for Lance. It is kind of a janky weapon in general, so that doesn't help its case either. I will say, I think right now Lance can be a really good pick into some of these weapons. I think, specifically, I think Lance into Katars is pretty good. Although I will say I have been seeing, people, I've seen Santi, I'm pretty sure, and Megdi both beat Kostlix, which is, again, he's one of the few metrics I have. Also, well, I should say Megdi beat Stingray in Parsec, and Stingray was on Lance for, I think, all those games. With that being said, though, I mean, just because, those instances were there, I still think Lance can do very good. It just takes a certain style. And also, I think if Katars had Sidelight nerfed, I think then it would be a lot different, because they're not going to be able to have that massive range, right? Lance will be able to actually outrange them more and keep them at a distance, which right now it's a little harder to do because of that. Okay, Scythe, I'm going to put it in S. I think Scythe is really, really good. The damage you can get off one read's insane. Also, the offstage is super, super good. It does take a little more to play it, yeah. But with that being said, you can still learn a couple just basic reads, and you're going to be set. You're going to get a lot of damage. You don't have to always have this weapon in your hands, right? If you know situations where it can thrive and you know where you can do good with it, then use it, and you're probably going to get either really early kills, or you're going to be able to take back positioning really easily, and then you can swap to whatever other weapon you want to. But yeah, Scythe's just going to stay in S. I think Spear right now in ones feels like horrible. I played a little bit of Wushang in Parsec, and I did not enjoy a single game played when I was playing that guy. It just feels like super laggy when you throw out the moves that they nerfed, specifically. Well, the moves that they did nerf were D-Light and Side Air, and Side Air is just, it feels so bad. If it didn't get nerfed, this weapon would be S tier, easy. With that being said, though, it's still so good in 2s. Like, Spear will always be one of the best weapons in 2v2s, so I'm just going to throw it in A+. In 1v1, you know, it's not that great. In 2v2s, though, yeah, you could say it's S, so it makes sense that it just goes right in the middle. And finally, Sword. Sword, again, it's not ordered in any way. None of it is, aside from, like I said, Orb. But Sword is just super fundamental. It's one of those weapons that everyone has played against it, and so many people play it, and it still finds a lot of success, right? It's not like Greatsword, where a lot of the success, I still think, rides on the fact that a lot of people don't know what to do against it. Sword has just been around since like the dawn of the game. People have played against it a bunch. It's just that if you're good at Sword, you're gonna find success, and certain moves are just really, really good. They buffed Nair for some reason. They gave Nair 1 more damage, which I think was super unnecessary. But yeah, Sword's just that weapon that if you're looking to play like very fundamentally, you're not wanting a weapon that has like a ton of different routes. You just want to do the basics and you want to do them well. Sword's your weapon. So already that does it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know what you think about the tier list in the comments below. See you, everyone.